I'm absolutely delighted to have my first guest, Dr. Robert Stevens from the Men's Health Clinic in Dorset. Rob, just for the people who don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and all about the Men's Health Clinic?
Well, we've now been practicing for 10 years. We started when testosterone deficiency and TRT was in its relative infancy. Not really many people knew about the condition and how to effectively treat it. So it was born because of a disillusionment and disenchantment with how I was practicing medicine. And I didn't want to continue doing this in the way I was doing it for the next 20 plus years. So testosterone deficiency has been under-recognized, underappreciated as a significant medical health condition. And there was obviously a niche there and an unmet need. And we've done our very best to meet that need. We now attract patients from all over the world. We have over 5,000 patients from 50 different countries, which is very humbling, but it's a testament to what we do. And that's not just testosterone replacement therapy. It's giving the guys the necessary support to, guess what, earn their reward. Because again, testosterone is that missing link, and it allows you to feel a proportional reward for the determined effort that you put in. Simple as that.
Good. From your experience and what you've gathered from your patients as well, what does it feel like to live with low testosterone? Because I'm guessing there's probably a lot of people out there who are in a similar position, and without kind of being educated around it, they probably are suffering from it, but just don't know what to look for, or they're masking it as something else, or being told to treat it with something else.
Okay. Fundamentally, I could give you the textbook answer, but that's quite boring. Low mood, tiredness, brain fog, low libido, but it's not really about that. It's about not feeling. It's about existing but not living. It's about putting the work in but not feeling the reward that you should feel. It's miserable for a lot of people. Disappointingly, too many of my patients have presented with suicidal ideation prior to TRT. And we talk about the interlink between physiology and psychology. And we think about testosterone as being this hormone for sex and muscles. But you need testosterone for life. And it's the counterbalance to cortisol. So when we talk about mood regulation, we're thinking about how you're reacting to a stressor. And we're thinking about, obviously, your sympathetic nervous system and cortisol. And then we're thinking, what's the counterbalance to that? Well, that's testosterone in your parasympathetic nervous system. So we talk about this importance of understanding physiology to improve psychology. And we think, well, okay, what's more important? Is physiology more important than psychology? Well, the answer to that question is yes, but the paradox is the only thing that matters is psychology. So it gets quite complicated, but fundamentally, low testosterone is a miserable state because you're not able to see the reward for your effort.
Yeah. I remember when I came to see you 5 years ago, and I remember the words that you said to me, which was after a little bit of a chat, you just sat back in your chair and went, "You're very flat, aren't you?"
Yeah.
And it was exactly that. It was just completely disengaged from the world. The words were coming out, but there was no particular thought behind them. It was just kind of like, I'm here, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, it goes back to your existing but not living. And I think the fundamental principles of life are the appreciation of yin yang, aren't they? So because you can't have an equilibrium without contrast. But you hit the nail on the head. You were flat. You weren't talking to me in the same way that you talk to me now. There was no joy in your tonation, in your posture. And now, I'm not putting words into your mouth, but you're leading your best life because you've taken life and you've gone, right, I'm going to wring the neck out of it now. And,
Yeah.
you're not treading water, you're actually just, you're moving forwards and appreciating every single moment. And I think that's one of the disappointing things about men with low testosterone is that they're not appreciating the little things, and it's like they're worrying, and all of your sort of psychological worries, they're all an illusion, aren't they? The only thing that actually really matters is right now, and you lose a sense of perspective, and your perception is distorted by this chemical imbalance, which fundamentally is low testosterone, but then it extends into all other aspects of physiology. I think you can still be miserable on testosterone replacement therapy because all we're doing with TRT is normalization, which then allows you to be determined and actually go out there and do what you want to do. But if you have a victim mentality, testosterone replacement therapy is not going to cure that. That's all down to you, which is why when we talk about physiology versus psychology, with physiology being more important than psychology, but psychology is all that matters. And ultimately, it's all down to you. It's your journey. What you do with the tools that you've been given is down to you. I can't put the work in for you. And it's like, I remember you saying that, you've not been out on your skateboard for years. And it's like, that's a fun endeavor. And it's like, you're not doing the things that bring you joy. And it's like, it's not all work, grind. It is doing the little silly things that just put that little smile on your face. That's
I can't
what
believe you brought up the skateboard.
was
I
that
can't
supposed to be between these four walls?
I can't get a skateboard anymore.
Come on.
Too many squats and leg press now. My knees can't take me still. 2 seconds. Need to let some more light in the room. I am going to come back onto that bit though. One thing that obviously one of the reasons why I was so keen to have you on is there's a lot of similarities between the men that I coach and the men that come to you as patients. I used to be okay. I used to be fit. I used to be healthy. I've let myself go. Life's kind of dragged us down this lane, and then 10, 20 years later, I'm in a position where I don't recognize myself anymore. And the bit that I'm really interested to understand is there comes a time when people actually realize that and accept that and then go, I need some help. What, from the patients that you've had, what is that turning point? Where do people actually get to the point where they pick up the phone or they send an email and say, Rob, enough's enough, like I need help?
Well, if you listen to the irresponsible marketing online, it's when you realize that you could feel 10 years younger. Or TRT is going to cure your tiredness. When people present to the clinic, hopefully they've looked at the basics and they've addressed their sleep, their stress, their nutrition, their exercise, and hopefully their mindset too. And they go, okay, something is still missing. Again, we talk about the symptoms of low testosterone. And if I was to list them in order of kind of importance, it would perhaps be mood, then tiredness, then brain fog, then low libido. And again, I think the internet would have you believe it's all about libido, erections, and muscles, but it's not. It's just about that sense that something's not right. So many of my patients have been to their GP with these symptoms, and they've been offered antidepressants, and they've said, "I'm not depressed." But hold on, Mr. Smith. You tick all the boxes for depression, but they know they're not depressed, and they want to seek answers that do not fit the narrative of I'm depressed, because once you label somebody as depressed, they're depressed. And again, we should take personal responsibility and accountability for our actions. And it's a very brave step to go, right, I need support from somebody else, because again, we're men and we know we should be strong, and but there's a point in life where you just go, I can't do this anymore. And, as I said, disappointingly, we've had far too many patients present in that state, but it's not letting it get to that state is the important thing. And I think that fundamentally comes from an understanding of physiology and psychology, but understanding that you're no longer invincible. And the irony is you were never invincible. So
Yeah.
all of the past endeavors and indiscretions that we engaged in, I was a raver back in the day, and you go, wow, yeah, amazing. Oh no, I feel rubbish. No, I feel all right again, so I can do it again. And your body gives you thousands of chances, but your conscious being, your ego, is not interested in your body. It's interested in what it wants, and that's at the detriment of your long-term physical and psychological well-being. And it's that awakening that's interesting. And again, we could go heavy on the marketing and say, you need testosterone because you're tired. And there's 100 causes for fatigue, so that's not true. So it's about being considered. And I think when you've got low testosterone, you're very reactive and you're irritable because fundamentally something's wrong, but fundamentally you haven't got the answer because the answer is testosterone. So it's understanding and awareness of self. I think that's the thing that's missing in most men, because we're all very ego-led when we start out, and we get fed down that road of, you need to achieve, you need to do. But again, it comes back always to the concept of balance and yin yang.
I think it's what I see particularly as well is people just seem to have to hit rock bottom first. I'm sure you've probably had this where they haven't hit rock bottom yet. They haven't hit that place where the realization smacked them in the face hard enough to then go, right, I can't do this. This needs to change.
Isn't that disappointing? Because I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I think it's a failing on the human disposition that we have to hit rock bottom before we realize there's a necessity for change. And I think that again comes back down to ego. And again, you're quite right. Somebody comes to us and they're not ready. They shouldn't go on testosterone replacement therapy. But I will have lots of patients say, I've been researching this for 2 years. I didn't want to pull the plug because I'd try everything first. And then they go on testosterone and they see all the benefits and they go, oh my God, I wish I'd done this 2 years ago. And I say to them, yeah, sure, but you weren't ready because you presented to me when you were ready. And that's the key, isn't it? Because again, that peculiarity of the human disposition where we have to hit rock bottom before we recognize the need for change. You're only ready when you're ready. And ultimately, again, it comes down to personal responsibility and accountability. And I don't say it's wasted time, that 2 years of you not feeling good, because again, the recognition that the only moment that matters is right now is key to your future happiness.
Yeah. They know they need to take action, but there's still probably some things that get in the way. What do you see as the most common kind of blocks or barriers or beliefs that men still need to get past before they'll actually take that step?
Um, we don't like change, do we? We're almost more comfortable in our purgatorial state than we would be making progress, because it's a comfortable state, even though it's a horrible state. It's a relatively comfortable state. It's a familiar state, and in order to grow, we need change, and that change is often uncomfortable. So actually, taking that necessary step forwards is a challenge. And again, when it comes to testosterone, we know there's that relationship between testosterone and dopamine. So taking that necessary step with low testosterone doesn't yield the reward because you don't get that dopaminergic response. So it boils down to the fact that there is a level of perceived discomfort in making the necessary changes to improve outcomes, but it has to be done. And with low testosterone, your physiology is fighting against you to say, well, it doesn't need to be done, but it does. And it's that awareness that is the differentiation between somebody that won't do very well on testosterone replacement therapy and somebody that will do very well on testosterone replacement therapy, is because they go, right, okay, I understand that this is a rite of passage and I'm the one responsible for taking that necessary step. I mean, you know, there's a level of support that we give you guys because it's necessary, but it's tough love. It's not, I'm not here to sympathize. I'm here to perhaps empathize, but just give you the tools to move forwards. And I think that's the key to success in life. Again, you know, it's
without challenge, there's no change.
Yeah, well, exactly. Nothing worthwhile. There's an element of risk and hardship involved in everything that's worthwhile. Why do you do these stupid things? It's like because I need to. I need to push myself outside my comfort zone. That place of comfort, you know, when we think about intermittent fasting, it's like if you think there's that parallel of, you know, that stress state is obviously good for you in to a degree from the fact that it initiates autophagy. But again, it's not supposed to be a sustained thing. It's supposed to be that cyclical thing. You know, you're supposed to do something, have that very temporary reward, then do something else, have another reward, do something again, reward, It's the passage of time. You have to keep going.
Well, once someone does start on TRT, what is the biggest change you see happen first? Is it the physiological side or is it the psychological?
It's the psychological, but it's because of the physiological changes. So, so it's literally going from that low testosterone, low dopamine, low estrogen, low serotonin, low DHT, low GABA, to actually have the brain go, oh, hello, I quite like this testosterone and dopamine and estrogen, serotonin, DHT and GABA. So that's quite a quick change, but it's as a result of the physiological changes. But you see the brain changes manifest in the psychological improvement, but then the physical things they take weeks and months, you know. And again, it's not always an easy ride because again, if I give you a protocol from the outset, that's not going to be your protocol from the ongoing, and unless I've absolutely hit the nail on the head, which is rare because your physiology is not exactly the same as my physiology. So again, there's that necessary titration process. So it's not all sunshine, lollipops and rainbows. It's actually, you know, it's a rite of passage and you have to trust the process to get you where you need to get to. So it can sometimes be quite a challenging endeavor to trust the process when you don't feel great, but it's been done thousands of times before, but I can't rush the process. So yeah, it's the psychological, but as a result of the physiological.
But I think the two feed off each other as well, don't they? Because you fix the physiology, the psychology improves. Once the psychology improves, you're then in a place to improve the physiology on another level, and then the levels just keep rotating and piling up on top of each other.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the placebo. The placebo works because the psychological mindset improves physiology. But again, you know, as I say all the time, you can't outthink your physiology, but you can positively impact your physiology by your psychological state.
True. What's the biggest identity shift that you've seen in men that have been with you for years? Because you're probably in a good position where, because TRT is most of the time a lifelong commitment, you get to see how this affects people over many, many years.
Yeah, I mean, TRT can be life-changing and sometimes life-saving. We obviously review everybody on an annual basis, irrespective of whether you've been with us 1 year or 10 years. You can see a massive shift in who that person is. Sometimes it's the idea that you're going to become regain that person that you lost. But it's not about that. It's not about just simply reversing those negative symptoms that you presented with to get you back to that status quo. It's about understanding how good you could be. And again, I think TRT is a little bit of a cheat code in the fact that you're always in a sort of an anabolic state, but in a healthy state, so that you understand the concept that if you ran an ultra marathon, you'd need to rest. TRT would allow you to recover quicker. But what I wouldn't want you to do then is say, well, I'm going to run 5 ultra marathons because the TRT is allowing me to do it. Because again, the body survives on the concept of balance, and testosterone is just one of the components, one of the necessary components to allow you to recover. But again, it's understanding that it's not just testosterone. It's understanding that, if you train hard, you need to rest well, you need to eat well. And again, it always goes back to the concept of yin yang. We have patients that come back every year and I say, how's your year been? And it's been challenging, doc. It's like, but I know I've coped with it better with TRT than I would have done without. And again, I think we all want life to be amazing, and life is challenging. And again, testosterone allows you to cope with the challenges and hopefully see them as opportunities. But again, it goes back to mindset. I can't change your mindset. I can give you the tools, but ultimately, if you've got a victim mentality, you've got a victim mentality, and it's down to you to take that personal responsibility and accountability to change that if that's you.
One of the things that I do see quite a lot is once they start to see changes, they can start looking to the future and they start seeing what's possible. But people who come to me in the first place are not looking to the future. They don't come to me going, I've seen where I could be. Can you help me get there? They always come with, Christ, I used to be this. I want to get that back. Then once you take them through the process of getting them back, that whole process then starts to shift their mindset towards thinking, oh, well, I didn't realize I could do this. Does that mean I can do this? And then all of a sudden it flips around and they're starting to think proactively rather than reactively. But not many people come wanting proactive change. They always come wanting reactive change. They always want to be like, I felt better before. I want to go back to that. The way that my mindset is at the minute, because as I always go out kind of telling people, well, you could be this, but they're not interested in this yet. They want to get this back to here. Then once they see when that's possible, then the mindset changes and they go, oh, I didn't realize I want to go here now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talk about the importance of goal setting, but with that understanding that once you've achieved the goal, there's nothing left. So again, we talk about building on daily wins. And again, if say you're training for an ultra marathon and you finish the ultra marathon, there's a peculiarity of the human disposition that then you'll probably slob for 2 weeks and eat pizzas and do all the naughty things. And then you go, oh, I need to get back on the horse and start training again. I think it's goal setting, but understanding that the goal is just a moment in time. And, your role and my role is to do exactly the same thing. It's to give them the carrot, but tell them, okay, right, again, this is what needs to be done. Ultimately, it's down to you what you do. I can support you, but I'm not going to do it for you. And again, it's putting that on that positive mindset. And again, challenges as opportunities versus threats. And I think so many people see life as a threat as opposed to an opportunity because you're constantly bombarded with nonsense. And I think it's not wholly our fault, but in the same breath, it's entirely up to you what you do with the information that's spewed to you from the social media and the news. And it's like, well, I look outside now, it's beautiful, and I'm going to go out and go for a run. I'm not going to worry about X, Y, Z that I can't change. I'm going to control my controllables so that all the other stuff just washes away and I can react appropriately to the negative because I understand what's actually real and not what's an illusion.
Yeah. I'm the ones that are still not doing what they need to do. They're not taking responsibility for themselves compared to the ones that are actually moving themselves forward and doing those things.
Yeah, they're always the pain in the ass because the guys that are doing everything right don't trouble us. So the guys that aren't doing everything right, again, they push the responsibility over to me to fix them, and I go, you need to do this, but then their emotions come into play and their feelings come into play, and I go, well, I'm not being funny. My job is to dial in your hormones, and I can do that. I'm not really responsible for your emotions and your feelings, but I can tell you that if your behavior is this, your feelings and emotions will be positive. And I understand that you're feeling quite negative, and they have that level of self-deprecation and again want me to fix you, but I can't do that. I can give you the tools to do it, but ultimately it's all down to you. And I think that's the challenging part of my job, because people like you are amazing. What I want you to do, Phil, is this, and you go, right, nice one, doc, bing bang bosh, done it, and then you move on and you move on, you move on, you move on. And again, it goes back to that kind of, I want to be fixed right now. And it's nothing's that easy. And again, if somebody promises you're going to be fixed in 2 weeks, they're lying. And again, if something sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. It's hard work, but again, you have to trust the process and let your behaviors impact your emotions. And I think, we're oversensitive and over reliant on our emotions, realizing that they're fleeting, and your behaviors will allow your emotions to be more positive.
This comes up time and time again in conversations, and like, I do want to draw the distinction that, there are people who are medically indicated for it. And I've got, one of my guys is on Mounjaro, but he was put on it for his diabetes, who has then since successfully reversed his diabetes and is now in a pre-diabetic state. To be honest, I think more to do with his exercise and lifestyle rather than the drugs. How many people are just jumping on stuff because they can't be bothered to diet, they can't be bothered to go to the gym, they don't want to do the hard work, they just want the quick fix. Is it the helpful tool that it's been marketed as, or are people just avoiding the work?
Well, obviously the latter. The reality is we're obviously quite flippant in our attitude towards that answer, because we put the work in. Whereas, I can see somebody who's morbidly obese being told, you need to lose weight. Okay, fine, great. So what do I need to do? We need to be in a caloric deficit, you need to do some exercise. Great, I'll do that. So they start doing all the things that they should be doing. And what happens? Well, they don't lose the weight because their physiology is dysregulated. So just very, very briefly, say somebody with a slightly lower testosterone because of obesity, and there's that bidirectional relationship between metabolic syndrome and testosterone deficiency. They have a low SHBG in comparison to a more healthy person. Now, I say go train and eat in a caloric deficit, that's going to raise your SHBG, which is going to lower your free testosterone to make you feel worse, so that you don't recover from the exercise that you're supposed to do in that stress state that you've induced yourself. So you go, well, I did that and it didn't work. So I can see why people give up, because again, it's too simplistic to say lose weight and exercise with a dysregulated physiology, which is where it comes into play that GLP-1s are brilliant for people that need it. And again, it's a benefit risk discussion with everybody, but obviously the benefits in a morbidly obese type 2 diabetic outweigh the risks. And again, the risks, my word. Okay, so if we talk about the major predictor of longevity is what? Lean muscle mass. So you're going to lose fat, yay, and lean muscle mass. Now, how hard or how easy is it to gain lean muscle mass when you're in your 40s? Well, it's easy to lose it. It's very hard to gain it. Then you look at what happens to your sex hormones, and you think again, what are we doing with GLP-1s? Now we're creating a stress state, so it's like being in a cut for like 12 weeks. That stress state. Well, I like stress states because of autophagy. Well, what you're doing is that the autophagy is there to allow you to go and find food. And it's like, again, men, very simple creatures, day, night, day, night. Women, a little bit more complicated. But when you raise SHBG, what does that do? And for the listeners, SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, it sounds quite cool, but it is quite cool. But it binds onto your hormones almost as a protective mechanism. And that lowers your testosterone, your estrogen. And what do you need those hormones for? Well, everything. Fundamentally, obviously, lean muscle mass, that's longevity, bone mass, so what you're talking about, osteoporosis. So we have lots of these sort of perimenopausal, menopausal women going on GLP-1 agonists when they already don't have healthy hormone levels, and you're going to go on a GLP-1 to lose fat, great. Lose lean muscle mass, not great. Lose estradiol to help preserve the bones, that's also not great. Then add in the negative impact it's having on your dopaminergic system. And again, what are we all about? We're all about chemicals, chasing chemicals, and dopamine being fundamentally that reward neurotransmitter that we all want, both males and females. If you're interfering with those dopaminergic systems, you're not only losing your appetite, but you're also losing your motivation, for sex, the things that you enjoy. And I think if your primary focus is losing weight, fine, but I want to enjoy sex, I want to enjoy motor racing, I want to enjoy all the things that I enjoy. Again, it's a benefit risk discussion, but I think the risks far outweigh the benefits when really it's mindset and discipline. But the caveat to that comment is people don't have the discipline or the mindset. So is a 3-month course of GLP-1s going to be deleterious to that if you think, well, I'm going to stop? I think we both know the answer to that. It can work, but we're very complacent and we all want to take the path of least resistance. And these drugs are being marketed as lifelong drugs. And why? Because it's super expensive. But it's very harmful to your overall physiology to continue on these drugs, to have that, what do we call, heroin chic look that they're all going for. If you look at, the Osbournes, I mean, they look like skeletons. And you see all these celebrities now, and they look ill. They look 10 years older than they should look. And it's perverse. There's a new drug, retatrutide. That doesn't cause much lean muscle mass loss. We don't know, but anything that has a dramatic effect has a dramatic effect. And if we understand one thing about the body, it doesn't like change, and changes should be sustainable. And the outcome should be sustainable. And I just don't think there's a level of realism and understanding of the actual true effects of these GLP-1s. And again, it's all about this, taking the path of least resistance. It's a quick fix. Quick fixes never work.
What they're not fixing is what happens when someone comes off. They've still not learned how to train properly. They've still not learned how to eat properly. They've still not learned to develop the discipline and habits that are going to carry them through the rest of their lives. So they come off and they're back to square one very quickly.
Yeah.
You've mentioned before, TRT obviously helps give men the tools back that they need, but there's still this responsibility that people keep shirking off themselves, and it still is up to them to do the work. You still do need to earn your reward, as you say. What I advise my clients is the same as what you advise your clients: healthy lifestyle, exercise, proper nutrition. What's your personal advice to men with regards to how they should be eating, how they should be exercising? You quite like your intermittent fasting as well.
Well, I've actually stopped intermittent fasting because I couldn't sustain it because I train at 5:30 in the morning. Um, and so I was going to like 2 p.m. and but I was preoccupied with food versus the sort of the alertness that I used to just get from fasting. Um, so it was too much. I think really it's about living according to principles and not rules. So it's like you have to intermittent fast. And it's like, well, yeah, I tried that. It worked for a certain amount of time, but actually, from a physiological perspective, whilst the principle still applies, you fast to allow autophagy, and you're predominantly in a sympathetic dominant state. It all makes sense whilst I'm alert and hunting. Um, it's living according to principles. So certainly from a male perspective, understanding that it's a diurnal pattern of testosterone and the fact that men are simple creatures, day, night, day, night, day, night. So, it's the obvious things, isn't it? Prioritizing sleep. And I think fundamentally waking up at the same time each morning is the key to mood and setting those circadian rhythms. So I'm up at 5 o'clock every morning to be there at the gym for 5:30. So I can cope with the stresses of the day and again release the masculine to allow me to be more empathetic and communicative. So it's more of the feminine estradiol. From a diet perspective, I'm again big massive advocate of low carb, high fat. I think I don't have an aversion to carbohydrates. I think they're just overused. So again, being in these ketogenic states, carnivore diets, I think they serve a purpose, but they're stress states. And again, I think that it's all about the concept of balance. So I think if you're in a keto state for too long, or in a carnivore diet for too long, ultimately, that increased stress on the liver through gluconeogenesis will actually be deleterious. There's no long-term data, but again, it's all about principles and just that understanding. From a training perspective, I've just done fan dance, the SES fitness test. Been doing loads of hiking. We've got 100 kilometers coming up in May, and we've got 3 marathons back to back in October. That's for the crack. But from a health perspective, I think HIIT resistance training are probably the go-to, but that allows me to go and hike the mountains and walk 100 kilometers because I've got that pattern of hardship in my brain to go, all right, okay, I can do an hour of hard, so I can do 4 hours of slow, easy peasy. And again, it's just that mindset again to do what, go earn your reward.
Cool. For men listening now who find themselves in that position of some of the symptoms and positions that we've discussed, and they find themselves ready, that they need help, what is the next step? What would you say to them?
Well, the obvious answer is to get a blood test. The necessary answer is to say to get a comprehensive blood test, because testosterone deficiency is a diagnosis of exclusion. There are lots of things that lead to testosterone deficiency. So you've got all of these online companies at the moment saying, get a finger prick test, a basic test to see if you've got low testosterone, to then sell the comprehensive test down the line. But we offer the comprehensive test to start off with because it will give me all the information to allow me to hopefully tell you what you need to do to not need testosterone replacement therapy. And if it means that you do all those things and you still have low testosterone after you've worked on your lifestyle, nutrition, exercise, and mindset, and then you've still got low testosterone, then you've got low testosterone. And actually, testosterone replacement therapy will be a game changer. But if you go on testosterone replacement therapy with a dysregulated thyroid, with low vitamin D, with low zinc, with raised hemoglobin and hematocrit because of obstructive sleep apnea, you're not going to feel the benefits of testosterone because, again, it's never about addressing one thing, it's about addressing everything. But it starts with your hormones, but what caused your low testosterone? Well, a cascade of things caused your low testosterone typically, and that wasn't overnight, that was over 40, 50 years. So we should always be looking as the body in a holistic way versus I've got low testosterone, I need testosterone replacement therapy. I've got low testosterone, what can I do to improve my overall health to potentially not need testosterone replacement therapy? And if you do all those things and you go on testosterone, you'll be a game changer. But again, there are far too many companies out there using TRT as a cash cow and wanting you to go on testosterone replacement therapy. It's like, I turn so many people away because you don't need it. But if you need it, it'll be a game changer. And I'll tell you, I've done this 10 plus years, 5,000 plus patients, tens of thousands of blood reports I've reviewed. It's like, this is not a flippant decision. This is a considered decision that you need to make with somebody that knows what they're talking about, not an online bot.
This is someone's life we're talking about, yeah? You're not ordering a car.
It's a false sell, isn't it? Because again, TRT will make you feel 10 years younger. Now, if you're stupid enough to believe that, then I can't help you.
It was 20 years for me.
Well, listen, if you come to the men's health clinic, we're not 20 years off, not 10 years off like another company. But it all boils down to psychology, doesn't it? Again, if you're flooded, you're just constantly bombarded with testosterone is going to make you feel 10 years younger from somebody that of high profile. Testosterone will cure your tiredness. And it's like, we're all susceptible to marketing, which is why people market. It's disappointing, but again, my advice would be not only one, to get a comprehensive test to start off with, but just don't rush into anything. Do your research. What sounds right is right. What sounds like it's too good to be true is too good to be true.
If someone does go down that route, they've had the blood test done, they've got the symptoms, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Support at themenshealthclinic.co.uk. That's the simplest way.
Cool.
Okay, because listen, that first conversation that we had, and you were flat as a pancake. What would you say has been the biggest change, and how have you kept it going?
The biggest thing I noticed was drive and purpose. I think the one thing that I lost the most of was the desire to move forward. It was just a feeling of being stuck where I was. As soon as that initial correction happened, the first thing that I noticed was a drive to want something else. What I was explaining before about the ladder and how everything snowballs, once the drive was there and I wanted to do more, the physiology caught up. That then made my mind even more active and want more. And then it's just a continuous cycle of, well, now what? Now what? What's next? What's next? And your level of drive and ambition and standards that you're willing to set yourself really improve. So I think it was a massive identity shift for me. And it's still one that's continuing to keep growing, if I'm honest.
Good. Listen, perfect answer, because that's what it's all about. It's about the ability to see the challenges as opportunities, but ultimately you taking personal responsibility and saying, how good can I be? What do I need to do to be that good? How do I do it? Right, let's go.
Yeah, brilliant. Rob, thank you so much. It was I've really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Good man. Cheers, Phil.